You are asked to protect by means of the law the image and likeness fashioned by God on every human life.
On March 13, 2013, Jorge Mario Bergoglio stepped into history as Pope Francis, igniting a global passion as the first Jesuit and South American to lead the Catholic Church. His election was an evident call for change, promising a new chapter focused on compassion for the impoverished, environmental stewardship, and a broader, more welcoming church. With an unwavering commitment to social justice, Pope Francis has been a relentless force for inclusivity and action. What revolutionary strides will he undertake next? Let's explore the significant influence of Pope Francis's papacy and peer into the future to envision the brave and uncertain path he will carve. A bold new direction with Pope Francis Bergoglio wasn't initially tipped for the papacy. Media speculation and some among the cardinals had their bets on others like Angelo Scola or Marc Ouellet. However, Bergoglio quickly emerged as a favorite, surprisingly outpacing other contenders from the get-go. His victory underscored his appeal among his peers, who admired his humble demeanor, pastoral approach, and forward-thinking vision for the Church. Choosing the name Francis was in itself a declaration of his priorities and the direction he hoped to steer the papacy towards. It reflected a commitment to simplicity and reform, echoing St. Francis of Assisi's principles. Had he been elected earlier in 2005, he would have chosen to honor John 23, known for his straightforward and pastoral nature, by taking the name John 24. Francis's initial actions as Pope were telling. From cutting financial perks for Vatican employees to significant appointments, he signaled a desire for transparency and change. He convened a council of cardinals, intentionally including those critical of Vatican operations, emphasizing his aim for a more open, decentralized church governance. His papacy has since focused on pressing issues like poverty, environmental care, and urging the Church to embody mercy and inclusivity. His first Easter message as Pope was a powerful call to action against greed and for peace. By washing the feet of juvenile detainees, including Muslims, he showcased a radical commitment to serving and embracing all, regardless of background or belief. Jorge Mario Bergoglio's journey to becoming Pope Francis, with its roots in the vibrant, diverse context of Buenos Aires, Argentina, reflects a path less traveled. His early experiences, from working as a bouncer to overcoming a severe illness, played a significant role in shaping his empathetic, justice-oriented approach. Joining the Jesuits set him on a demanding path of spiritual and intellectual formation, leading to roles that honed his commitment to social justice and pastoral care. Throughout, Bergoglio's lifestyle remained grounded, often choosing public transport and simple living, starkly contrasting the luxury associated with ecclesiastical positions. Rising to become Archbishop of Buenos Aires and then a cardinal, he remained focused on advocating for the marginalized, embodying a church more engaged with the world's needs, and emphasizing action and compassion over strict doctrinal adherence. When Jorge Mario Bergoglio was named Pope in 2013, it was a significant moment, signaling change and setting a new course for the Catholic Church. Chosen for his humble nature, understanding of modern challenges, and a vision for a kinder, more inclusive church, Pope Francis's time as Pope has been defined by his straightforward, approachable style. He has focused on critical issues like poverty, inequality, and taking care of our planet, continuing the mission he embraced as a young member of the Jesuit order. In 1973, Bergoglio became the provincial superior of the Jesuits in Argentina, stepping into a role that would test him deeply against the backdrop of the country's political turmoil. During this time, known as the Dirty War, anyone seen as opposing the military regime faced severe risks. Bergoglio's job required him to be both a spiritual guide and a protector, navigating dangers to keep those under his care safe from a government that was abducting and harming dissenters. His efforts during these challenging times included working behind the scenes to help those targeted by the government, including 2 Jesuit priests who were kidnapped and tortured. Despite misunderstandings about his actions during this period, later clarifications showed that he played a crucial role in their eventual release. These experiences deeply influenced Bergoglio, shaping his leadership style and his focus on justice, mercy, and supporting the marginalized. As Pope, Francis has portrayed a different image from previous leaders of the Church. Opting for simpler living conditions and often prioritizing actions over words, he has shown a strong commitment to those on the fringes of society. This approach, while drawing widespread admiration, also invites scrutiny and debate over the balance between maintaining tradition and embracing modern challenges. Through his papacy, Francis has tackled various issues with a zeal that has broadened his appeal beyond the Catholic Church. His encyclical on climate change, Laudato Si, for example, has been a significant move, blending spiritual leadership with activism. This has positioned him as a pope deeply engaged with the most pressing issues of our time. Yet, the journey to his current stance as a figure of progressive values and social justice was not straightforward. Behind the persona of Pope Francis lies a complex journey of navigating through the intricacies of church politics, societal challenges, and the quest for meaningful reform. His papacy is not just about leadership within the Church, but also about the Church's role in a rapidly evolving global landscape. Explore how Pope Francis's faith in action invites us to rethink our role in caring for the planet. How Pope Francis is fighting for a better planet. With a straightforward approach, Pope Francis tackles big problems like harming the environment and social fairness with enthusiasm. In his work, Laudato Si, he steps up as a leader fighting against climate issues, linking the struggles of poor people with the condition of the earth. This story he tells mixes a strong call to action with a moral duty to care for our planet and its inhabitants. The Pope's message in Laudato Si has stirred conversations about climate change and caring for the environment, mixing these topics closely with caring for people who have less. He's praised for connecting Catholic environmental values with a call to help the poor and future generations. His work stands out for bringing together faith and science, promoting ideas about caring for each other and the world across generations. Yet, even with the Pope's strong message, there's a gap between what he's asking for and what's actually happening worldwide, especially with slow progress on climate issues. The document doesn't just point out problems. It calls for us to change how we live and interact with the environment. It points out that, despite knowing a lot about environmental issues, things are getting worse, not better. This document played a big role in big global meetings like the Paris Climate Agreement, showing how the Pope is pushing political leaders to work together on climate and sustainability goals. His involvement shows how far the reach of Laudato Si extends beyond the Church into making actual policies. Beyond just talking, Pope Francis has also started projects like the Laudato Si Action Platform. This project aims to get the global Catholic community and others to live more sustainably and take care of the environment. It's a big step in making the Church and its followers more active in tackling environmental challenges. The Pope's vision of a more inclusive, fraternal, peaceful, and sustainable world offers hope. It shows how initiatives led by faith can significantly contribute to facing environmental and social challenges worldwide. Yet, turning the vision of Laudato Si and projects like the Laudato Si Action Platform into real action shows how complex and difficult it can be to move from moral and ethical guidance to actual change. Pope Francis has been working hard on reforming the Church, dealing with modern problems from clergy sexual abuse to financial issues. He's trying to make the Church more open and responsible, but it's tough when facing old traditions and the slow pace of change. The idea of giving more power to local church communities has its pros and cons. It's meant to make the Church more relatable and give people more say, but it also risks making it harder to keep everyone on the same page. Francis is trying to find a balance between making the Church welcoming for more people and keeping its core teachings intact. His way of dealing with church teachings has sparked a lot of talk. Some people think his updates make the church more relevant today, while others worry they might weaken long-standing teachings. Francis focuses on kindness, justice, and welcoming everyone, aiming to meet the needs of today's churchgoers in a new way. Pope Francis has always talked about how important it is for the church to talk more, not just among its own people, but with everyone in the world. He believes in growing together and understanding each other better rather than just trying to convince others to join the church. His thinking is heavily influenced by Ignatius of Loyola's spiritual exercises, which focus on getting to know Jesus' life better. This way, people can develop a deeper relationship with Christ that goes beyond just following rules. Since he became pope, the church has been more open to talking about topics that were once avoided, showing the different opinions people within the church have. Despite this, Francis is well liked all over the world, showing he can connect with people spiritually, driving the church in a direction that truly reflects the gospel's main messages: love, kindness, and mercy. The ongoing discussions about Pope Francis's views and their impact on the church show a bigger challenge within Catholicism. This is about finding the right balance between sticking to tradition and adapting to today's fast-changing world. People have different opinions about his role as pope. Some see it as a threat to the traditional Catholic Church, while others think it's a necessary change for the Church's mission. His influence will be felt for a long time. Pope Francis has been very active in speaking up about big issues like poverty, unfairness, and harming the environment. He calls for everyone to work together to make the world a better place, especially for the poor and future generations. He wants changes in how our society works to make sure it helps people first. Throughout his time as Pope, Francis has made important changes in the Vatican. He's worked to share power more, be more open, and include more people. His fight against corruption and efforts to manage the Vatican's money better show he's committed to leading in a moral and ethical way. His actions, especially against child abuse in the church, show he wants the church to help solve big world problems. Even though there have been some controversies about his views, especially in the US, many people, including Catholics, still think highly of him. A study found that 6 out of 10 Americans have a good opinion of Pope Francis. He's good at talking about important issues and using social media to reach people worldwide. Pope Francis believes the Church should always be ready to communicate better and help those in need. He thinks the Church should not just focus on itself, but actively participate in solving the world's social and environmental crises. But there's an ongoing debate about how he interprets the Bible and church teachings. Some people aren't happy with his more people-centered, situational way of looking at things. This debate shows the church is at a key point, deciding whether to stick with tradition or adapt. Let's look at how Pope Francis sees a well-known miracle as a lesson on sharing and community. The simple words and actions turns into miracles. Pope Francis's take on the biblical story where Jesus feeds thousands with just a few loaves and fishes has indeed sparked much conversation within the Catholic Church. He views this story as an example of sharing and kindness, suggesting that the miracle is more about the act of giving and the spirit of community than the actual multiplication of food. By connecting this story to the Eucharist, Pope Francis highlights the importance of sharing and caring for one another, inspired by Jesus' actions. This viewpoint, though, has led to some controversy. Some have criticized Pope Francis, accusing him of focusing too much on social issues and overlooking the miraculous aspect of the story. They argue that he's moving away from traditional teachings. However, these criticisms may not fully grasp Pope Francis's intent to dig deeper into the stories of the Bible, to find meanings that apply to today's world and encourage active faith that tackles current problems. Some sources, like the National Catholic Register, explain that when Pope Francis calls this story a parable, he might be looking at its deeper symbolic meanings, not denying the miracle. This approach follows a long Catholic tradition of interpreting scriptures in various ways, such as literally and allegorically, to draw lessons relevant to different aspects of life, including moral and spiritual growth. Commonweal magazine has discussed how some of Pope Francis's critics view his statements through a lens of suspicion, accusing him of leaning too much towards political views rather than maintaining doctrinal purity. Yet, Francis often returns to core Christian values of compassion, sharing, and relying on God, which are central to Catholic theology and address today's challenges. Cardinal Raymond Burke, a prominent critic of Pope Francis, especially disagrees with the Pope's approach to church teachings and inclusivity efforts. Burke's clash with the Vatican highlights a significant division within the Church, with Pope Francis removing Burke from certain privileges as a response to his actions that were seen as causing disunity. Burke has criticized many of Pope Francis's initiatives, including his welcoming stance towards LGBTQ+ Catholics and divorced and civilly remarried Catholics receiving communion. Burke also has voiced concerns that the Synod on synodality could lead to confusion or even schism, viewing it as a departure from traditional teachings. Supporters of Pope Francis argue that his focus on social justice issues like poverty and environmental concerns is not a departure from doctrine, but a deeper application of it. They believe that faith should actively engage with the world's problems, not just adhere to orthodoxy. Pope Francis's portrayal of Jesus as a figure who deeply engages with humanity, emphasizing mercy and compassion, challenges a Christianity focused more on afterlife rewards than on addressing earthly suffering. Francis envisions the Church as a place of healing and support, much like a field hospital for the spiritually and physically wounded, urging a return to the compassionate roots of Christian teachings. See how Pope Francis wants us to put our beliefs into action, helping those in need. Pope Francis tells us to act, not just believe. Pope Francis believes in a Christianity that's not just about beliefs, but about actions, especially when supporting those struggling. He sees Jesus' connection with the less fortunate not just as something from the past, but as a clear message for Christians today to step out of their comfort zones. Pope Francis wants people to live out their faith in the real world, beyond just talking about it or practicing it in church. He talks about finding real joy in faith, the kind that doesn't just stay inside church walls, but spreads out into everyday life. This joy comes from a deep relationship with Jesus, very different from a faith that feels heavy or sad all the time. Francis believes in a church that is more like a caring mother than a strict judge, a church that's not afraid to step into the messiness of life to help those in need. Pope Francis leads by example, showing incredible humility and openness. He's known for his simple lifestyle and for making gestures of kindness towards people from all walks of life, including other religions. He prefers talking and learning from others over trying to convert them, showing that he values understanding and connection. He's pushing for the church to be more involved in the world, to not just focus on keeping itself safe and unchanged, but to actively make a difference. He talks about a church that's not afraid to get hurt or dirty if it means helping people who are suffering, showing a clear preference for action over comfort. Francis emphasizes Jesus' kindness and connection with those who were often ignored or looked down upon. He presents Jesus in a way that's relatable, as someone who knew hardship and cared deeply for those who were hurting. This view encourages us to see Jesus as a guide who walks with us, not just a distant figure to be admired. The Pope's messages are not just nice ideas, they are a call to action. He sees the teachings of Jesus not as abstract theories, but as instructions to fight against wrongs, to care for others, and to work for a fairer world. His approach is about living out one's faith through actions that make a difference in the lives of others. Understanding Pope Francis's views also means looking back at the Second Vatican Council, a major event that aimed to update the Church's role in the modern world. This council influenced how the Church sees its teachings, worship, and place in society, paving the way for leaders like Pope Francis who are focused on making Christianity relevant and active today. The Second Vatican Council introduced a way of interpreting the Bible that focused on understanding its historical and cultural background, using what are known as historical critical methods. This approach sees the Bible as an ongoing conversation between God and people, which has been happening for many centuries. By encouraging this deeper and more thoughtful way of reading the Scriptures, the Council aimed to make the Church's teachings and practices more relatable and meaningful to people living in today's world. Pope John XXIII, who started the Council, along with the popes who followed him, wanted to make the Church more relevant in a world that was changing quickly. The Council made several important changes in the Church, including updating the way Mass is celebrated, introducing new ideas about the Church and its members, and promoting better relationships with other religions and beliefs. These changes were about making the Church more welcoming and ready to talk with the wider world and other faith traditions. Pope Francis's letter Laudato Si on taking care of our planet is a good example of how these teachings from the Council are being continued. He talks about integral ecology, which links environmental issues with justice for people and fair economic systems. This letter, like much of what Francis does, shows the Council's desire for the Church to connect more with what people are experiencing in today's world. Around the time of the Council, there were also important theological movements and thinkers who wanted to go back to the early sources of Christian faith and look at them in a new light, considering modern experiences. Pope Francis is also trying to make the Church's social teachings address today's issues more directly. Using historical critical methods meant looking at the Bible in a new way. Scholars started to study the Bible's text, its different styles, and how it was put together. While some people worried this might make the Bible seem less holy, the Council said that understanding the human parts of the Bible actually makes its message from God even stronger. For example, scholars used textual criticism to study old Bible manuscripts closely to figure out the most original text. They used form criticism to understand the different literary types in the Bible and how they affect its message. And redaction criticism helped them see how editors might have shaped the texts based on their own beliefs. These studies weren't just for academics. They were meant to deepen everyone's faith by asking tough questions and exploring the Bible's meanings. By looking at the Bible's human and cultural sides, we can see the complexity and richness of how God speaks to us. After the Council, Catholic scholars have continued to explore these methods, placing the Bible in the wider context of ancient cultures. This has helped show how the Bible is both unique and connected to other ancient writings. Understanding how the Bible was formed and became the book we know today helps us appreciate its depth and encourages a faith that actively engages with the world. Explore the debate on new versus old ways of understanding the Bible in the Church. The unexpected challenge of reading the Bible now. In the intricate world of Catholic theology, adopting historical critical methods for interpreting the Bible has stirred up a lot of feelings. For some, it's like opening a treasure chest, offering a more detailed and rich understanding of the Scriptures by uncovering their historical and cultural roots. But for others, it feels like opening Pandora's box, bringing up intense debates about sticking to traditional teachings and the true authority of the Bible. For those who cherish tradition in the Catholic Church, the historical critical method can seem threatening. They worry that focusing on the human aspects of the Bible and its context might turn it from a sacred guide into just another ancient text. The fear is that this scholarly approach might water down the timeless truths found in Scripture, casting a shadow of doubt over the unchangeable teachings of the faith. Yet, this tension isn't just a minor disagreement. It reflects deeper concerns about how the Church can keep up with the times without losing its foundational beliefs. Those wary of the historical critical method fear that it might make the interpretation of the Bible too personal, possibly drifting away from core doctrines. But there's also an understanding, even among those who hold tradition dear, that looking into the Bible's historical context is essential, especially for a faith that celebrates God becoming human. The entrance of the divine into human history gives some credibility to exploring these historical questions. Critics of the historical critical method aren't asking for it to be abandoned, but for it to be used wisely, in a way that respects both the historical truth of the texts and the timeless truths they convey. Scholars like N.T. Wright offer a way to do this, blending historical insight with a firm adherence to traditional Christian beliefs. On the other side of the debate, many people see these methods as shedding new light on the scriptures, offering insights that make the Bible feel more relevant and alive today. They believe that understanding the historical and cultural context of the Bible doesn't weaken its divine message, but actually makes it stronger, showing how it can guide us in the modern world. This debate often leads to heated discussions in church meetings and academic circles. It's a struggle between keeping the scriptures sacred and making the most of modern research to understand them better, a challenge the church meets with careful consideration. The 2002 document from the Pontifical Biblical Commission is an attempt to find a middle ground in this debate. It acknowledges the value of historical critical methods while also emphasizing the importance of spiritual interpretation, aiming to make the Bible's teachings more relevant to people today. Pope Benedict XVI, who was influential in the Vatican then, pushed for a balanced approach that considers the faith aspects of the scripture alongside historical analysis. His guidance aimed to renew the Church's theological mission by finding harmony between scholarly research and theological reflection. This ongoing conversation isn't just about academic interest, but has real implications for how the Church sees its mission, its teachings, and how it supports the faith of its followers. It's about finding a way to make the Bible, a historical document, also a living text that continues to inspire and guide believers. Pope Francis has added his own voice to this dialogue, emphasizing social justice and the application of biblical teachings to issues like poverty and environmental care. His focus on Jesus' compassion and involvement with the marginalized reflects and amplifies the Council's vision for the Church to engage more deeply with the modern world's challenges. This situation highlights a broader challenge within the Catholic Church, finding its voice in a changing world while staying true to its core teachings. As Pope Francis encourages a reading of Scripture that addresses today's issues, he invites not only Catholics, but all people to see how ancient texts can inform and inspire actions in our contemporary lives. See how Pope Francis is changing the Church, sparking both cheers and worries. The controversial move towards inclusivity. Under Pope Francis has brought a new way of thinking to the Catholic Church that stirred up a lot of talk and even some arguments, not just within the Catholic community, but also among some evangelical Protestant groups. He's been advocating for a big change or shift in how Catholic theology is understood, focusing on a way of practicing faith that's more about engaging with people's real lives and having conversations, rather than just sticking strictly to old doctrines or conservative ways of interpreting the Bible. He's really pushing for the Church to be more about spreading the gospel and connecting with people everywhere, not just staying within its own walls. This idea of making the Church's mission of sharing the gospel feel new and important again has gotten mixed reactions. Some people are really excited about it, while others are not so sure. There are some folks, especially those who tend to hold on tightly to traditional beliefs, who are worried that Pope Francis's new directions might lead the Church away from its long-standing teachings. They're concerned about a lot of things, like how the Church is organized, how much say regular church members should have, and what the Pope teaches about things like social justice and taking care of the environment. They're afraid that focusing too much on being merciful and open to discussions might water down the Church's strong teachings or even cause disagreements within the Church. But there are also a lot of people who find Pope Francis's approach refreshing and hopeful. They like the idea of a Church that's more welcoming, that cares deeply about what's happening in the world, and that wants to work towards fairness and protecting the planet. The way Pope Francis talks about faith as something that should be lived out in the real world, dealing with real issues, feels new and different to them. Pope Francis has also been working to bring different Christian groups closer together. While this has shaken up some of the usual ways things have been done, it's also opened up new chances for different Christian denominations to understand each other better and work together on common goals, like spreading the gospel's message of love, kindness, and making peace. This whole debate goes beyond just the discussions within the Protestant community. Pope Francis's thoughts are part of a larger movement in theology that's bringing attention to different ways of understanding the Bible, especially ways that consider people's current situations and struggles. Thinkers like Gustavo Gutierrez and Elizabeth Schussler Fiorenza have been saying that the Bible isn't just an old book but something that still speaks powerfully today, especially to people who are often left out or treated unfairly. Within the wide world of Catholicism, Pope Francis's views have gotten a variety of responses, showing just how diverse the Church is. While some people are really excited about focusing more on the human side of the Bible and its teachings, others are more cautious, worried that this might be straying too far from traditional ways. However, especially among younger Catholics, there's a lot of support for Pope Francis. They see him as someone who's speaking directly to their concerns and inviting them to be part of a church that's truly involved in tackling the big moral questions of today. Pope Francis's way of leading the church has really got people talking. He's been trying to change the way the church thinks about its beliefs, aiming for a style that's more about understanding and relating to people's real lives today. This means moving away from old ways of just sticking strictly to doctrines and being more open to discussing what faith means in the modern world. This new direction has been met with a mix of excitement and worry. Some people are concerned that changing too much might make the church's core beliefs less clear or lead to disagreements among church members. They're especially worried about changes like being more welcoming to same-sex couples or rethinking the church's rules in a way that seems to stray from traditional teachings. On the other hand, many people are really inspired by Pope Francis's approach. They like the idea of a church that's more involved in the world, more compassionate, and ready to talk about faith in a way that fits with today's challenges and questions. This approach is especially appealing to younger Catholics who want a faith that's active and makes a difference in the world. Pope Francis's focus on discussing issues openly, being merciful, and making the Church's mission fit better with the fast pace of today's society is a big theme of his time as Pope. While there's some debate about this, it's clear his ideas are making people think deeply about what it means to have faith today. What change should Pope Francis enact for the biggest impact on the Church? Your opinion matters. Comment your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more.